Hello, everyone. I'm Jesse Waters. Welcome to The Five on another night of breaking news. The Justice Department announced this evening that a special counsel has been appointed to investigate the allegation that the Russian government attempted to influence the 2016 presidential election. Deputy Attorney General Rod Ronstein appointed FBI Director Robert Mueller to oversee the probe. President Trump quickly reacted, saying, quote, "A thorough investigation will confirm what we already know. There was no collusion between my campaign and any foreign entity." Joining us now live from the White House is Fox News Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry.
Good to see you, Jesse.
All right, you too, Ed. So the feds have been investigating Russia and the election and Donald Trump's campaign probably for about a year, it seems like. I haven't heard anything solid. Everyone's, running around crazy in Washington on cable tonight. There's a difference between a scandal and a conspiracy. So tell me, what exactly would the special counsel be investigating in terms of a crime?
Well, here's the problem for the White House tonight, Jesse, which is that this is now a wide-open investigation. The press release from the Justice Department makes it very clear that Bob Mueller, a highly respected former director of the FBI, wide support in both parties, now has a vast power to investigate Russian influence in the last presidential election and, quote-unquote, other matters. And so what does that mean? Does that mean he'll also investigate General Mike Flynn? Will he investigate the president's dinner with James Comey, another former FBI director? And so if you think back to the Clinton days and Ken Starr, a special counsel, a special prosecutor can start as one thing and become quite another and be very, very difficult for a White House. On the other hand, what is good news for this White House tonight is the fact that the president now perhaps can get back focused on taxes and health care and the other things he was elected to do, while a highly regarded special counsel is now focused on the Russia matter. So to your question and to your point, if this president has nothing to worry about here, he will now have a highly respected investigator who will look at this, and if there is nothing there, at the end of it, the American people can have confidence that we can finally move on from this. Obviously, if Bob Mueller, though, now with this wide-open investigation does find a crime or crimes, that's a whole nother matter and is going to get very difficult for this president because of the fact that Mueller is known as someone with great integrity.
Yeah, so like you said, it could really give the president some breathing room to enact his agenda in the next couple of years or however long this takes. Let's take it around the horn. Kimberly Guilfoyle.
All right, thank you, Jesse. So, Ed, did this come really, though, as a surprise that this was the direction that they were leaning in? It seems like they tried to get out in front of it in terms of saying they wanted to have this happen to make sure to show that there was nothing improper, no kind of, impropriety going on here.
It did seem like a surprise because, as you know, this president, his top aides have been resisting calls for a special counsel to be named. But the fact of the matter is that our own John Roberts, our chief White House correspondent, is telling us tonight that from a senior administration official, when Don McGahn, who's the White House counsel, got the official call from the Justice Department that this is the way they were going to go with Bob Mueller as special counsel, McGahn then went to the president in the Oval Office and they convened a meeting. Reince Priebus, the chief of staff, Kellyanne Conway, Steve Bannon, all kinds of top aides. And what I find interesting in this reporting is that we're hearing that the president seemed measured in his response. You know that President Trump's critics are waiting for him to tonight or tomorrow morning early tomorrow get on social media, start ripping either into Bob Mueller or his critics on the Hill. But instead, we're hearing a much different portrait from the president's senior advisors tonight, that in the Oval Office, the president basically told his top aides, okay, this is the hand we've been dealt. Let's move forward. And so to Jesse's point, this may give, on the positive side, this White House some breathing space to get back to the business of the nation. You saw the markets reacting in a negative way today to all this uncertainty in Washington. Okay, now it's going to be investigated. Let's get back to business. And the president realizes there's nothing he can do at this point. A special counsel has vast power. There's no more resisting the calls. And in some ways, that's good for this White House. Instead of the drip of not just Democrats, but now slowly some Republicans on the Hill saying, yeah, we need a special counsel, and the White House fending it off. You know what? That's over now, Kimberly. There's a special counsel. They have to deal with it.
Yeah, the president might be breathing a little sigh of relief here. What do you have?
No leaks.
Ed,
Right.
I'm not sure I get this straight. The Justice Department made this call, and then the White House was told, correct?
Yes, because you have the #2 official who helped write that memo that helped the president decide that he was going to fire James Comey. He has the power to appoint a special counsel because, remember, the #1 official at the Justice Department, the Attorney General of the United States, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer, Jeff Sessions, has recused himself from all matters related to this Russia investigation because he was a part of the campaign. So the White House had no control of this, and their Attorney General had no control of it.
Well, yeah, but it's a little unusual that they don't even know that this is going on until after that. But I think it's good for them. I mean, I think Jesse made a good point. This is, you know, up to now, they have so screwed up the communication on this stuff, on the drip, 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 and they could never get on the same page, this White House. Now, I suppose everybody could say, look, it's under investigation. It's got a special counsel, and we're not going to comment on it. Now, that's right. You can't screw that up. Well, maybe they could, but it would be hard-pressed to do it. But this White House might pull that off.
Well, Bob, you know previous administrations in both parties, whether you had a special counsel or you had congressional investigations, it's an effective tool, an effective weapon, as you suggest, to say, when you're asked at the White House podium, Sean Spicer, what's the latest on the Russia investigation? We're going to stay away from that. We have a special counsel. Bob Mueller's looking at that. I'm going to talk about health care. I'm going to talk about taxes. So instead of that drip, drip that you mentioned and the pounding that Sean Spicer and the president himself have been taking and others here at the White House, I'm not saying this is good news. There's a special counsel now investigating this. And so Katie barred the door. If there was, and I underline the word if, there was a crime or crimes here, Bob Mueller is respected and is a lawyer, is a former FBI director. If there were crimes here, he's likely to find them. But so I'm not spinning this as good news. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right that this is a chance for the White House to insulate themselves and say that's going on over there. We're focused on the business of the country.
Dana Perino.
Well, Ed, you were in the White House briefing room. I was the deputy press secretary at the time when the Valerie Plame investigation was going on, and there was a special prosecutor, Patrick Fitzgerald, who was a U.S. attorney at the time at prosecuting authority. What is the difference, if any, with Bob Mueller taking over here? And also, I do think that we're sort of missing one other point. This is not just an investigation into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. It's actually much bigger than that. And I see it as almost like a Rob Silberman report on WMD, because it's about the overall Russia attempt to influence. It maybe had nothing to do with the Trump campaign, but when you look at some of the things that Russia was doing to hack into Twitter and social media and to create fake news stories and all of that stuff, I actually think that this could be very, very useful overall for not just America, but for the civilized world to basically push back against this entity, Russia, in some sort of like a Rob Silberman type report that would be accepted in its conclusion.
Correct, because I think as you lay that out, without a special counsel, President Trump could have been dealing with this maybe not for weeks or months, but maybe years. On the other hand, now you can get a vast investigation to look at everything. John McCain last night, as a Republican, a senior Republican, said this is becoming something like Watergate, drip, drip. The American people are not going to have respect for the investigation if it's done by people who are seen as close to the president. It must be some sort of independent probe. So to your point, I think, yes, this could be important for this White House to have some sort of good housekeeping seal of approval that this is not a crony of President Trump who's looking at this. On your question about special counsel or special prosecutor, the law has changed. Remember, the special prosecutor law, as I recall, several years ago expired. And so now the Justice Department has the ability to call a special counsel. What will that mean for Bob Mueller? We don't know tonight. He now has to hire lawyers. He has to have investigators. We're told that he's going to build on the current investigation with FBI agents, but he's going to have to get office space here in Washington. He's going to get investigators. This could be a sprawling investigation. Does he just look at it as a quote-unquote special counsel that investigates and then recommends to the Justice Department whether or not there's a prosecution if there are crimes? Final point. You're right. There's an important point everyone has to remember, which is that this is not just about Russia influencing the election. When the Justice Department statement says they'll be investigating the special counsel other matters, that could mean the president's dinner with James Comey, the president's meeting in the Oval Office with James Comey, General Flynn and the money he accepted. There's all kinds of things that this can open the door to that could be very painful for this White House.
Greg Gutfeld, you're next.
Just to that point, when there's so many lanes, there's more lanes to this than in a supermarket. There might be nothing there. I mean, when you can't focus, And instead, you're saying, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. It's because there's no this. So you're desperately trying to find all these little things. But that's not what I want to talk about. I swear I can hear Hillary Clinton cackling in her makeshift shed out in the woods, because I think this is maybe for her a minor victory, a participation trophy after being just slaughtered by Trump in the election. If you remember in the book Shattered, they detail how right after she lost, the narrative that she wanted out was that she lost because of Russia. And so ever since then, it has been about Russia, Russia, Russia. And now that's what she got. The media's on board. Everybody's doing her bidding. It's like she's never went away. Thoughts, Ed?
Well, Greg, it was even more recent than the book Shattered and more recent than election night. Think about a week or two ago when Hillary Clinton did that Q&A and flat out said, I was winning. If the election were held, I think she said on October 27th, I'd be your president, which was a remarkable thing to say because the election was not held then. As Sean Spicer said from the podium here behind me at the White House the day after, he said if they had finished the Super Bowl at halftime, the Atlanta Falcons would have won. October 27th was ridiculous. That had nothing to do with it. It was not Election Day. And so I think directly to your question, the fact of the matter is that Hillary Clinton has not gotten over the results. Maybe she gets some measure of justice tonight that this is all going to be looked at. But I think it's very interesting that, remember, Donald Trump and his advisors in the campaign encouraged this whole lock her up refrain. And so now you have a very serious investigator, Robert Mueller, looking at whether or not there were crimes on the Trump side. We don't have any evidence that there was or is. But now they're investigating it, and they're looking at it very closely, Greg.
All right, Ed, thanks very much. More to